You ever get a letter that feels like a slap in the face? Yeah, that happened. Imagine coming home one evening, dust still on your boots, thinking you finally found peace after years of busting your back just to own a little slice of Colorado, then finding a 72-hour eviction notice in your mailbox signed with a flourish by your neighborhood's very own Queen Bee Marjorie Klein. Not a neighborly welcome, not even a knock at the door, just an ultimatum: sell your ranch or pay up because your horses and cattle don't fit her vision. That was my welcome party to Grand Junction. You know, I wasn't out looking for a fight. I just wanted to work the land. Hear the horses in the morning, smell hay and freedom on the wind. But standing at the end of my gravel driveway reading that letter, something inside me just snapped like a fence post under too much strain. 3 days, she said. My fence, my horses, my whole life not up to community standards. Never mind I'd done my homework, never mind it was zoned agricultural, never mind every paper and permit was in order, it wasn't a mistake, it was a power play. Inside, I tossed the letter on the kitchen table so hard the salt shaker rattled. My wife Cynthia saw my face and didn't even need to ask. She slid the kettle off the stove and just waited. When she read that letter, her lips pressed into a thin white line. 72 hours. Who does she think she is? I just shook my head. The president of this HOA, I muttered. But she doesn't own me. Cynthia looked me dead in the eyes and said, "So what are you going to do?" I stared out the window, watching the sun set over my pasture, thinking, hell, I've spent my whole life earning this. There's no way I'm letting Marjorie Klein or anybody else run me off. That night I drove over to Marjorie's place. You could spot it from space biggest house on the block, hedges trimmed with military precision, every flower pot the same. She opened the door herself, all business, late 50s stiff smile. "Mr. Whitfield," she said, like she'd been waiting on a package, not a man with a letter. I held it up. "You want to explain this?" She didn't flinch, just straightened her shoulders. "It's quite clear. Your property doesn't comply with the community's vision. You'll need to make other arrangements." I told her plain. "It's zoned for ranching, county approved, every legal document's in order." She tilted her head, and here's where the mask slipped. Sometimes what's legal isn't what's best for everyone. That line, let me tell you, it lands like a brick to the gut. It wasn't about fences or cows. It was about control. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I'm not selling." She just pressed her lips together and said, "Then you'll face consequences. The board stands with me." I took a step closer. Let her see I wasn't bluffing. "We'll see about that." Then I turned and walked back to my truck boots crunching in the gravel, feeling the kind of heat in my chest I hadn't felt in years. You ever lay awake staring at the ceiling, knowing the next day might be a war? Cynthia reached for my hand and whispered, "You can't let her win." I squeezed back. "I won't." Next morning I got up before the sun. Did my chores like normal, but my mind was a million miles away. By noon I'd had enough of waiting for the next threat. "I'm going to the HOA meeting," I told Cynthia. She gave me a look like, "Be careful," but I just nodded. Neither am I. The meeting was in the community center. Funny enough, the parking lot spilled over onto my land, though no one seemed to notice that. But me. When I walked in, the room went quiet. Marjorie sat at the head of the table, all regal and composed. "Mr. Whitfield, we weren't expecting you." "Well, I got your letter," I said, sitting down right across from her. A balding board member tried to keep it polite, told me this wasn't the time for individual grievances. I cut him off. "You gave me 72 hours to sell my property." "Who gave you the right?" Marjorie folded her hands, "Cool as you please. The board and I uphold the community's values. You're fencing your livestock. It's an image problem." "An image problem," I shot back. "You mean my ranch doesn't look like your magazine lawns? That's not an image problem. That's you erasing anything that doesn't fit your taste." The room got real quiet, and Marjorie's smile went thin. "You can interpret it how you like, but we have the authority to fine you daily." I leaned in. Fine me for what owning livestock on agricultural land, fixing fences with my own hands? You're not above the law. Her jaw clenched. This isn't about the law, it's about harmony. I laughed, couldn't help it. Harmony. Not once have you asked about my family or my plans for this place. The only harmony you care about is what you can control. For the first time, I saw a crack in her armor. I left, but not before locking eyes with a couple neighbors in the back. Didn't say a word, but their looks told me plenty. Back home, Cynthia wanted the rundown. She tried to shut me down, but people are tired of her. She nodded. So, what's your move? Find out how much power she really has, and take it away. What I didn't know was how deep her claws already were, or how many neighbors had been quietly waiting for someone to fight back. The next day at the feed store, some old-timer stocking grain leaned in. You're the new rancher out by Mesa Park, right? Marjorie already after you. Turns out I wasn't the first. She's got a pattern, he said. New folks move in, don't fit her picture. Suddenly you're breaking some rules she just made up. That stuck with me all the way home. That night, while I was mending fence, an older lady named Frances came over, saw what happened at the meeting. Takes guts. You have no idea how many of us have been waiting for someone to stand up. She told me about families fined for extra cars, threats, endless penalties. Most folks just gave up and moved. A few days later, another neighbor, Owen, stopped by. Marjorie hit you with a letter. He'd caved 2 years ago, lost thousands tearing down a shed she said was too tall. She counts on folks giving up, he said. Don't be like us. That night, Cynthia and I spread every deed, every county record across the kitchen table. She's been running unchecked, but you've got something they didn't evidence, she said. I started thinking about that parking lot at the community center, how it crossed onto my land. Something didn't add up. So I headed to the county clerk, spent hours digging through property maps and old leases. What I found just about floored me. The HOA had been leasing part of my land the same lot with the community center. The lease expired when I bought the place. Now any claim had to go through me. They'd been squatting on my land, charging residents for access, pocketing the money. I made copies, drove home feeling like I'd finally found the high ground. When I showed Cynthia, her eyes went wide. She thinks she's holding all the cards. She's wrong. I needed to confront Marjorie, not with words, but with proof. That folder sat on my table like a loaded gun. Cynthia pointed out, if you can show this to the community, she won't be able to hide. I called Owen. What if I told you the HOA's been squatting on my land? He laughed bitterly. I knew she was crooked, just couldn't prove it. Hit her fast, don't give her time to weasel out. The next HOA meeting, I walked in with a binder under my arm, boots still dusty. Marjorie was ready to play queen, but I laid out the certified documents in front of the whole room. You've been trespassing. Worse, you've been collecting money for access to land you don't own. Gasps went around the board, looked uneasy, and neighbors started murmuring. Owen backed me up. Frances chimed in, and for the first time, Marjorie lost her grip. She tried to yell hostile takeover, but the room wasn't buying it. You don't get to pick when rules apply, I said. Silence. That night, Cynthia told me, you turned the tables. But I knew it wasn't over. Marjorie's type never just surrenders. They get desperate. And desperate's exactly what she got. She tried to whip up the neighborhood, telling families I was gouging them, threatening to double dues. Folks showed up at my door, torn between their kids' play center and the truth. I held up the lease and said, I'm not shutting you out. I'm offering a fair deal. She's the one who lied. Some believed me, some didn't. But the cracks were spreading. I called a town meeting neutral ground, just the facts. Showed every document, laid out the money trail. When Frances stood up and said, he's not the enemy. He's the reason you're finally hearing the truth, I saw heads nodding finally. Word got around. The next board meeting was chaos. Residents demanded answers. Marjorie's voice cracked, her control slipping away. When a man stood up and said, feels like you've been running this place for yourself, the applause just about knocked her over. In the end, it didn't end with fireworks or lawsuits. It ended on a Tuesday morning with Marjorie herself at my door, eyes, red hair, a mess. She handed me an envelope, the new lease signed by every board member. "You fought hard," I said. "I thought I knew best, but now they don't trust me." "You took that from me," she muttered. "No, you did that to yourself." She left heels crunching down my drive, the fight gone from her step. After that, the neighborhood changed. Budgets went public. Dues were fair. Some folks grumbled, but most finally saw the truth. Marjorie faded away, stopped coming to meetings, eventually resigned. I'd like to say peace came easy after, but standing up to a bully always costs something. Sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to back down for themselves and for everyone too afraid to speak up. Looking out over my land now, Cynthia at my side, horses grazing, sun setting behind the mesas, I realize the best part isn't just keeping what's mine. It's making sure no one else ever has to go through that kind of fight again. So if you took anything from my story, let it be this. Don't let fear or bullies decide your future. Know your rights. Stand your ground. And if you've ever faced something like this or got your own battle scars from HOA drama, drop a comment, tell me where you're from, what you think is fair, and whether you'd have fought back or walked away. Because at the end of the day, the only way to change a place for the better is to have the guts to take a stand.